tests. And so this is something that is still not really developed. But if we can get popular support behind initiatives like, funding science related to disarmament verification, that's something that, states can work with. And another, I guess, less popular point of view in the United States, but popular in Russia and China, is that you need to focus on other aspects of disarmament. Like, there are many different types of weapon systems, nuclear just being one aspect of them. And like for Russia and China, they've been pushing now for a long time in the UN progress on, banning weapons in space. Like nuclear weapons are banned in space, but conventional weapons aren't. And they say, well, if we just continue to make progress on nuclear disarmament, then the US is going to have a huge advantage over us. So it's more of a comprehensive process, and you often hear the term like complete and general disarmament. So that refers to not just nuclear disarmament, but the disarmament in other fields. And that's something, if you want to see progress in the nuclear realm, you have to make progress in the other realms as well. So, you can level the playing field in a way that's going to make other states like Russia and China get on board.
Okay, thank you. I think I saw someone else ready to ask a question. Maybe 2 people, 3 people.
Hi, thank you to all the panelists. I'm Marie Butcher, and I teach here at the Institute. I wanted to comment on the importance of changing the narrative, which was a thread that kind of ran through all of the talks, this sense of urgency to find some tangible solutions, maybe the congressional legislation, like finding specific things that the congressional legislation to have Congress approve anything before any attack could be initiated. David's suggestion of a media campaign. I think people are very hungry for tangible solutions. And in my class currently, we're talking about North Korea, and we had another student group speaking about the Liberty in North Korea group, and we had the chance to speak with a North Korean refugee in person. So seeing the human face of the situation of the North Korean individual who survived and a couple of attempts to flee and then became a refugee and now is living in the States, how then he has humanized the problem instead of it getting lost in the rhetoric and the media, the way the media presents the North Korea situation. So I'm wondering, from people who are informed, as you all are, what would be the things you would want to send to policymakers, to Congressman Panetta, to all of our representatives? What would be specific messages you would like to send, and then you would like members of the audience to support and endorse, that would help make those shifts in how we think about the problem, and how legislation can be initiated so that we can do something in a more immediate fashion? Thank you.
Jackie, could you address that?
Yeah, I don't think we can. I think they're skipping a big step there. In the absence of a social movement, we don't have any power to change Congress. That's part of the problem, is that sort of since the end of the Cold War and now, the numbers of people, the people power has diminished. And so you have sort of this reduction to send a postcard to your member of Congress, and there just aren't enough of us. And we really need to rebuild a movement. And so for those people that you're talking about who are informed and who want to do things, I think the most important thing they can do is public education. That could be on a very small scale, house parties, teach-ins, peer-to-peer sort of stuff. The international peer-to-peer, putting a human face on it's incredibly important, not just with North Korea, with Russians, with Chinese, and so on. But I think that unless we kind of rebuild a movement from the bottom up, and it can't be single issue. It cannot be single issue. We cannot win this as a single issue, because it's not a single issue. It's intertwined in every way. You know, of course, we don't have champions in Congress, basically. I mentioned this one bill because it's getting some attention and has attracted more co-sponsors than would have been expected. But I think that we need to sort of rethink our strategy and think about how to become, you know, much more powerful.
Okay, we have a little time left. Were there other people ready over here to ask questions? You've been sitting there close, so why don't you go first, and then Hebert, and then we'll conclude.
Hi, my name is Cecilia, and I'm a non-proliferation and terrorism studies. I'm here just based on huge interest, and I'm just expressing my appreciation to this discussion. And as a outsider, my question would be: how do you think that the discussion and the narratives of the non-proliferation has become too specialized or too difficult in the language for the public to understand? Public meaning me, examples like me. And also, if yes, how would you suggest to change it? And also, to what extent would you like this issue to raise a sense of urgency, but not causing public panic? Yeah.
Sounds like that's for...
And I'm speaking as an international student from Hong Kong. Thank you.
Sounds like that's for Leslie or Masako to take on.
I guess I can start. I think to some degree what you're saying about the topic becoming too specialized, I think that is very accurate. That's a good observation, and I think that's why panels like this, open to the community, more events like this and trying to get more people in here is something that can help improve that situation. I guess I want to return back to the previous question as well, what we can do specifically to move forward right now with our government, what message can we send? One is to get them to support the nuclear deal with Iran and stop Trump from the recent news is that he's going to decertify the agreement, which could essentially blow the whole thing up and give Iran the opportunity to develop nuclear weapons, which is just going to make the whole situation even worse, particularly in the Middle East, where this issue has been dividing the region for a long time.
Okay, Hebert, and was there anyone else or not? Oh, one moment, and then our last
Just one thing.
question.
I want to endorse what Leslie just said to you about Iran. That is the thing right now. In terms of, I think it has become way too complicated. You don't need to be an expert to know that nuclear weapons are unacceptable and incompatible with life on planet Earth. That's the main talking point. Second thing is, because I've heard it so many times here, I want to just gently suggest that you ponder the difference between non-proliferation and disarmament, because non-proliferation has been used a lot. They don't mean the same thing. Non-proliferation means stopping the spread of nuclear weapons to more countries. It doesn't really talk to us. Disarmament means eliminating nuclear weapons. So be aware of that distinction.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Hebert Olson, and
It's okay.
I think Leslie had the answer. She said the two sides were talking at each other. No listeners were mentioned. So the question is, even in a marriage, how do you get along if both partners are only talking at each other and never listening to the other? And that might solve a lot of problems, including not only nuclear weapons.
Okay, does anyone want to take that on? How do you get people that are talking past each other to listen to each other? Okay?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an answer to that question, but I think, again, having sessions like this is so crucial. The education aspects, I think that's really the only solution. It's a long-term solution. You're not going to see immediate effects. And, you know, maybe one thing that could push them together would be some sort of catastrophe, you know, whether it's an accident or, you know, North Korea launching, you know, a nuclear weapon, like the use of it. We want to avoid that being the catalyst for change. So I guess the more you talk about it, the better.
One thing I thought of as we had this discussion during the program is that it seems that we need something more than Americans organizing to talk to the American government, which can easily say, well, we can't eliminate nuclear weapons when all of our adversaries have them, our major adversaries, and even Russians talking to the Russian government or Chinese people talking to the Chinese government. It seems we need to have some kind of a global group talking to all these governments and saying from the people of the world, we need all of you to reduce and eliminate nuclear weapons, because just doing it on a country-by-country basis, I don't see that it's going to make progress unless it's similarly happening in the other countries. So with that, I would like to thank especially all of our panelists for their participation. I would like to thank all of the volunteers, and particularly Judy Karras of WILF, that was the main organizer of this panel. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming and staying through the program. There's a lovely reception waiting for you in the lobby. You can congratulate and ask more questions and discuss with any of the panelists and with each other. And other than that, I'll just say good evening. Thank you.